Banner Zone FM area, you are listening to Dual Radio. Coming up next, we have a deck profile from Tyler Pieper, achieving 9th place, playing EXOSISTER at the Indianapolis Regional on January 14th, 2023. Big shout out to them for sending the deck profile this way. Without holding you up any longer, let's see what they were playing.
Hi, I'm Tyler Pieper. I got 9th place at the Indianapolis Regional this past weekend, and I was playing EXOSISTER. So I'll just go over my list. 3 Martha, it's play starter, pretty standard. 3 Alice, it's next best one. 3 Stella, all pretty standard ratios. 2 Sophia. Some people tell you 1 is, or some people will say 1, some people will say 3. I think 2 is the correct ratio. It's just way too bricky if you draw multiples, and having the second one is fine if you draw one of it. 1 Irene, if you draw her, you're probably going to lose, but you have to play her for Vadis. 3 Shifter. A lot of people were on Shifter this weekend. It's either you played Shifter or you were on tier. And, you know, I resolved this card a total of like 3 times the whole tournament, and every time I resolved it, I either bought me a turn against tier, or it seemed really bad because I was playing against something like a Flunder. So, I don't know. I think this card's pretty good, though, and I think you have to main deck it if you can play it. So, there's that. 3 Ash. This card is so garbage against tier. I sometimes wish I didn't have it, but, you know, with the times it did have it against, like, random rogue stuff, it was great. Like, Ashing Flunder was really strong when they would just have, like, their one starter, just trying to be ignorant. And I think that having this card in the main was fine, and sometimes it was fine against tier a couple times, like just ashing the Perlarino or ashing whatever the Sen would be. It wasn't awful. They would just not play around it, but in later stages of the tournament, I definitely wish I didn't have this mained. Then all the spells, 3 packs, really standard. It's your searcher. There are some cool stuff. A couple times it came up to special summon off packs. Like, people didn't necessarily always read the bottom clause of it, so that was nice, I guess. 3 Prosperity. Shout outs to Trippy, a good friend of mine, for getting me this last minute. Otherwise, also known as Lunanim. Otherwise, I think this Pot of Prosperity was fantastic. The only time I ever regretted playing this card was when someone flipped Imperial Iron Wall on me round 9, and I looked at my hand and it was dead. 2 Dark Ruler no more. You have to play this card main deck, or else you just can't play going second, and you're gonna lose die rolls. Prosperity into Dark Ruler no more is pretty strong. If they don't negate that. 2 Necro Valley, 1 Terraforming. I think this pretty much speaks for itself. Tier is really good right now. You don't care about Necro Valley. Everybody else does. My cards are really old, so I have 2 different text lines on them. But, you know, I think it was pretty good. Every time I drew Necro Valley, it was really good this weekend. Even against, like, Flu, it wasn't garbage, just because they rely on banishing stuff from grave sometimes. As far as the traps, 2 Returnia is pretty standard. It's the best trap in the deck. I don't really explain too much with that. I'm on 3 Vadis. I think 3 Vadis is ideal. A lot of people play 2. This card is a play starter. It's Ritual Beast Ambush. I don't know why you wouldn't play 3 Ambush if you could. However, I mean, I'm playing 2 Steeds, so what am I saying? Vadis is really strong, though, and it's a play starter on its own, and I just think you play 3. You play 3, because then if you open 1, you just search the Vadis instead, or the Returning instead, I'm sorry. 3 Imperm. Imperm is great. Imperm on a bird is always relevant. Imperm on Kiklos is an awful. Imperm is fine going second if you draw it for turn. Like, this card's great. Would not cut. Probably best pan trip. And I'm playing 3 evenly, because every other non-tier deck was playing 3 evenly. Even the tier decks were playing evenly. You just needed to break boards going second. And, you know, having this was a great equalizer. And the times, even when I held it in my opening hand, I was like, wow, this card's even not that bad to have opening turn, because I usually have combo. And even if I just let them go first and they don't OTK, I even lay them next turn. It's great. And birds just struggled to OTK, so that was fine. Tier, though, yeah. And the tier players weren't playing around evenly most of the time, so only a couple in later rounds really started to play around it. That's really it for the main deck. 40 cards, nothing too crazy. I'll do extra next. 2 Estophiel, Dweller on legs. You could probably play 1 and get away with it just fine. I think 2's nice to have. The bounce is okay. It comes up to sometimes have a second one. I do kind of wish I had a second Jabrine. I only played 1. Having it against birds would have been nice. There was plenty of flu at the tournament. I played flu twice. I think I played 5 tier limit players, and a couple a sprite, and then one of their random rogue. It was Punk Kashira. But the Jabrine, having a second Jabrine would have been nice against the flu matchup. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. Caspatel 2. You always play 2 minimum. You could play 3, but 2 is ideal. Her on summon effect is never relevant the entire tournament, though, I swear. 3 Michaelis, it's the best one. You play 3, it banishes, it does its thing. Nothing really more to say about it. Magnifica, I'm playing 2 Magnifica. I don't think I've ever summoned more than 2, and I should never have enough targets in the extra deck to summon more than 2. So Magnifica was great. Too many times people would just evenly me go in. If I had set up Magnifica, Vadis Returnia, and they would evenly me, and I would just keep the Magnifica, and it was enough to stop the tier boards. So I think Magnifica was pretty good. I played 1 Cowboy. I never went to time, though, so Cowboy just wasn't relevant. Just sat on my extra deck, looking pretty sad. But he's there. And I'm playing 1 Zeus. You have to play Zeus. It comes up too many times where you just get these simplified game states and you just overlay your Xyz monster with the Zeus, and it's really strong. And the last cards I played, Alina, Usselene, and Access Code. Honestly, these could be whatever cards you want. This could have been a Baguska. It could have been more Exosister monsters. It could have been a Tornado Dragon for all I care. I think all these are fine. Having a Baguska out's kind of important, but since I was already on 2 Dark Ruler and more 3 Imperm, I didn't really need it, and no one's really playing light monsters in their graveyard right now, except, us. And, if you're summoning Exosister back in the mirror, I think you're kind of in trouble. That's it for the extra, though. Nothing too insane. And lastly, for the side, 2 Sphere Mode. Sphere Mode, I never enjoyed drawing this card. This card is probably only really good game 1. After game 1, this card got a lot worse because people just wouldn't make 3 monster boards after going into game 1 because they were so scared of Evenly or other board breakers. I really wish this was my any of the other cards I cited, a 3rd copy of, potentially. But in theory, it's good game 1, especially against Sprite and tier boards, just to break them. The 3rd Dark Ruler for going 2nd. That's pretty self-explanatory. 2 Lightning Storm. One of these Sphere Modes probably could have been the 3rd Lightning Storm. I think Lightning Storm was really strong, especially against Flu. Even wouldn't have been bad against some of the tier boards because they just started setting up back row, or they would set up these boards that really were didn't float as well as you might think they would into Lightning Storm. So I think Lightning Storm was fine. However, I didn't play against any Sword Soul. I only decided Anti-Spell going 2nd or going 1st. So this maybe not as good. I had to borrow a 2nd copy of Zombie World because my Zombie Worlds didn't come in time. But 2 Zombie Worlds, they swap in for the Necro Valleys in if they're playing the weird Sword Soul Shifter version, or if they're playing Flu. It's really strong. It's also really good against random rogue. It's fine against if someone's playing plants or whatever. And if worst case to worst, it's not garbage against here. I mean, it turns everything into zombies. That's pretty good. I'd rather just have Necro Valley though. So it just swaps in for that. 3 Judgment. Everyone's trying to evenly you. Everyone's trying to board break you. Everyone's trying to do so many times. Someone just is trying to evenly me, and I judgment them, and oh, now I don't have this board breaker, and you have your full setup. It's really strong. It's just the best way to stop that. If honestly, if I just so reliant on having to banish cards, I just play Iron Wall myself just to stop evenly. I'm go 2 goes in match. This could have been replaced. The 3rd could have been the Sphere Mode. It's okay against certain matchups. I only saw it twice the whole tournament when I cited it in. Once it was just kind of mediocre in a simplified game site, and the other time it was pretty good and won me the game. Locked the Kustira monsters out, so it was pretty good. And lastly, 3-day barrier, which was an all-star. Every time I drew this card against Tier going first, I was like, wow, I just shut off everything they're doing for a turn. Or it was, in theory, it's really strong against the Sword Soul decks. It was really strong against basically everything I said it did for. So you know what? I'm very, very impressed with this card. It also has the benefit, people will try and board, like I said, will evenly you lightning storm you going into game 2 and 3. So having a chainable trap is really nice. So overall, thoughts on the deck? I think it's a fine deck. I think if people know how to play against you, as my later opponents did, more properly, or playing different builds of the tier deck, because there's a million different builds, I think this deck is fine position-wise. I would not take this deck if I were trying to win a YCS, though. I think tier is just overall stronger and has just the better consistency level compared to this deck. This deck just runs out of gas, where tier just can spin its wheels for 10 minutes straight and still be like, yeah, I'm just going to shuffle everything back with the sheets of cards. So overall, I think it deck's pretty good and had a good time at the tournament. Shout outs. Thanks, Luna, for lending me cards, and shout out to also my friend Jenny from over in Champaign for lending me cards as well, and for Kat, Kakaibo, and Bakani for helping me build the deck. Thanks. Peace.